Hey everybody, Leah Klett here with the Christian Post, and I'm so excited today to be joined by author, singer, and actress Chrissy Metz. Her latest children's book is called When I Talk to God, I Talk About Feelings. Well, Chrissy, I'm excited to talk to you about your new children's book. I have four little kids, so
You do?
I do, and I'm
What
always so
ages?
6, 4, 2, and 10 months.
You, okay, that's incredible. I have a dog and I don't even know which way is up. So, wow. Oh my gosh, how cute. Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry.
No, I love it. And so I always get excited when I see kids' books, like
Yeah.
sweet kids' books that teach children about their emotions and about how to navigate the world around them. So tell me why you wanted to write your second faith-based kids book, When I Talk to God, I Talk About Feelings.
Yeah, I mean, we were so fortunate to have the first book, When I Talk to God, I Talk About You, so well received that once we were going around to different churches and schools and reading the book, inevitably every single kid, whether they had a question or they had a comment, it was always about their feelings. Like, oh, I felt sad today because I wasn't picked to be on, the kickball team, or I was really scared last night when I went to sleep, or I got a new bike and I fell and I was embarrassed. And I was like, wow, like these kids are, it's so beautiful because I don't know that as a kid I really did that.
Mhm.
Whether I knew how or it wasn't really fostered in my family to talk about your feelings, that you got to be tough and you just figure it out. But now I feel like the world is shifting in a way that is, there's just such a necessity to talk about your feelings and to name them and to bolster kids' confidence through that. And also, I mean, we see that with, um, I think that there's such a bigger picture in that kids are looking so far out, whether it's social media, for like love and acceptance and like just time with people that love them. And I'm like, what better way to do that, of course, than to be reading with your child or your loved one, and then to be able to have a conversation about how you're feeling,
Mhm.
and to share like, okay, maybe the reader, the mentor, the parent is, yeah, I was feeling that same way too. And there's like a bonding experience and those bonding moments that I think are so important. Um, and you get to know your child. And I think a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of parents work a lot or they're very busy and they're obviously providing for their children, but like, do we know our children? Do we know our family? Do I know my nieces and nephews? Like all of those things. It takes a village to raise a child, I'm sure you know. Like, so all of that combined was like so important. And you do it in a way with a children's book, with a picture book that is gentle, and hopefully engaging enough to even just to sort of plant the seed. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, what I love is you're connecting emotions with prayer, right? Emotions aren't sort of the end game. No, we're going beyond emotions. We're talking about your faith. We're talking about the connection with prayer. Why was it important for you to connect prayer and feelings in a way that kids could understand?
Yeah, well, because the first book was like a gentle introduction into prayer.
Mhm.
And then now, sort of, I don't want to say graduating, but sort of graduating to this next thought of you really can talk to God about anything. You really can pray about anything, anyone, everyone, at any time. And for me, I do that like literally all day, every day. Like, you know what, God, please be with me because I'm feeling really anxious. Or gosh, like I'm feeling inadequate, or I'm feeling, like maybe I'm not the person for the job or whatever. And when I can sort of ground myself in prayer and just remember that, like, okay, I'm a child of God, like, first and foremost, like that for me is very humbling, but also it sort of grounds me in that no matter what, I don't have to accomplish anything. Like, I'm made in the image and likeness of God. Like if that's enough. Like that's enough. I don't have to accomplish anything, do anything, and it really just sort of centers me. And so I just find it very helpful. Like there's not a moment that goes by that I'm like, please God, like I need help or I need like hear how I feel or whatever. So, um, yeah, we wanted to simplify that for kids.
Well, your role on This Is Us, of course, touched millions. Do you see any connection between the emotional storytelling of that show and what you try to do through your books?
Yes, I think so much of any actor, any person, like you, yes, of course, you're a different character, but you bring yourself to that role. And so I I always sort of lead with my heart. And I think Kate did that. And pretty much every role that I have been a part of, gratefully, as like sort of been heart centered or like leading with the heart or having my heart on my sleeve or just been like very just honest with my emotions. And I I think honesty and authenticity is so important. And it's always it's always beneficial, but it's not always easy to do. So, yeah, I try to sort of come at everything that I do with that, with heart, honesty, authenticity. And it's like, even if I tried not to, I don't think I could. I think it's just who I want to be and who I am. So, yeah, all of it similar and touched and different, in every aspect of my creativity.
You're learning about God when you're writing these books. You're learning about yourself and your role in relation to God. How has your own faith journey been impacted by these?
Yeah, I think it's really about like my own personal relationship with God. And it is so personal, like, um, I always thought, oh, I don't want to bother him. I don't like there's so much other stuff going on in the world. Like, I'm okay. Like, it's fine. And the more I talked to people and the ideas that we kicked around, and as we were writing the book or as I'm writing the companion album, I'm realizing that like, oh no, like this bolsters my relationship with him. And
Yeah.
then I get to honor him and then I get to thank him for everything that he's given me by like talking and sharing how it's changed my life and how he's, you know, the reason for all of it. So, yeah, it definitely deepens my faith and my connectivity and my relationship with God for sure.
You do so much. You act, you sing, you write. What else are you working on right now that you're excited about?
Oh, I'm trying to develop a one-woman show. Um, that sort of melds like the acting and the music together, but also telling my story, which is very scary to think about. I'm like, ooh, when you play a different role, you get to be someone else. But when you're yourself, you're like, okay, here it is. The good, bad, the ugly, the indifferent, you know, um, yeah, so I'm excited about it, nervous about it. And everything takes so long to develop, but I'm enjoying the process for sure.
So what advice would you give to young readers or even
Mm.
parents who are struggling to make sense of big feelings?
Yeah, I think it's so rewarding. Excuse me. I think it's one of those things that the more you do it, the better you feel about it. And so it's little by little. Like I don't think that overnight you have to be like, well, this is how I felt and this is what like sometimes you can't make sense of it all, but like if you can sort of tiptoe around like, oh, you know what? Mom, when you said that to me, like that hurt my feelings because it adds sort of obviously a connectivity between the parent and the child. And then the parent also gets to confront their feelings. And it's if you can do it with like love and patience and grace, it will only, I think, deepen and strengthen the relationship, not only to yourself, but to your children, to your family. The way you walk into a room, like it has such rippling effects, but it's a practice. Like it is not easy. It's hard to be vulnerable. Um, because then you think, oh, people are going to take advantage of me. They're not going to have respect for me. And I always say that like our tragedies are our triumphs. Like what is the hardest thing is like how we change the world. Like like it's it's a process though. And so I would just say to have grace and patience with yourself, but also try to stay open-hearted and open-minded of like okay, I'm gonna have to really remove my ego if my child says I've hurt their feelings,
Mhm.
or gosh, I really want to manage their feelings and I want to fix whatever they're feeling, and maybe I can't. Like maybe, and that must be so frustrating and difficult. But like going through it together is it's so important and so helpful. But also, most of the time, we all just want to be heard.
Mhm.
It's not like don't fix something. Like you might not be able to fix it. Just hear what I have to say. Like that is, I think, so um life changing to just be able to say, "Oh, you love me enough to hear me? Okay." Or I trust you enough to tell you how I feel. Like that is, I think that's the whole reason why we're on this planet, is like to evolve and to love and to grow with each other. So it's a process. Be patient and kind with yourself, and also just know that like if we were perfect, we wouldn't be here. So like the whole point is like we're on Earth School, we're all teachers and students. So yeah, I think it's just about being open-minded and open-hearted for sure.
Chrissy, you have been in Hollywood for many years now. You've done so many incredible projects. How do you stay grounded in your faith, in an environment that's not always terribly supportive of that?
Yeah. Yeah, it can be difficult because I can sit back and say, "Oh, like that movie, that TV show I would have loved to have been a part of. Like it's so cool, it's life-changing." And then I just have to be reminded that like my journey um and my trust in God and what he wants for me is like what was destined and written in the stars for me. And so I have to just trust that like I'm on the journey I'm supposed to be on. And
Mhm.
I can appreciate and love people's art and creativity and their acting or their musicianship, whatever, from afar, but I don't have to um be jealous, or I don't have to think like, oh, well, my life, my career, like I don't have to compare and despair. I always say that because it's my journey is different and important as anyone else's, but um I think unfortunately religion, God, prayer, any of that sort of gets a bad rap in that people think that there's this like negative connotation that like people are telling you how to feel, and you if you don't believe in God, then you're a bad person. And it's like, oh, that's actually not when you're really Christian and walking in the faith. Like that's not what the message is. But unfortunately, it gets misconstrued, and you know, stories get misconstrued, TV shows, all that stuff gets misconstrued. And it's really sort of our own perception of what projects should or shouldn't be. And I just try to come at it from like, what is my intention in this project? Do I want to, what do I want to impart? What do I want to leave the audience with? And maybe it's a religious movie, or maybe it's not. Maybe there's some sprinkling of religion and God in there, or maybe it's not. Um, that's not to say that there aren't messages that aren't very important to tell, but I have a hard time because I just have to surrender and trust to God and like the journey and the plan that He has for me. And it's not easy. And it doesn't matter if you're an actor or an attorney or a teacher. Like I think we all feel that way. Like, "Ah, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
Mhm.
Like, is this the path? Is this my journey? Especially when it gets difficult. So I just try to sort of like lean into the relationship with God more when I have those questions. But it's not always easy in Hollywood because there is still like a bit of a stigma, like which I find odd. I
Mhm.
find odd in that like people can write movies, you know, TV shows, whatever, about anything they want. So why is it that like if people are religious and have a relationship with their higher power, why can't that be told as well? You
Mhm.
know, it doesn't mean like this or that. It's like, oh, every place, I mean, every person has has a story to tell. So yeah, it's a weird thing, like I am so grateful for my career and relationships that I've built, but I also know that I don't have to force anything down anyone's throat, or I don't have to like make them believe what I believe. It's like attraction, not promotion kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, I do think there's also people are coming around to more of the idea of, because I think people are really needing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like they want wholesome, good content that is beautiful, especially when we use entertainment as a way of sort of escapism in a way. I mean, I know that I'm going around in so many concepts because it's such a massive answer. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think art imitates life, and sometimes it just takes a moment to
Mm-hmm.
sort of catch up. But also, I do know that like audiences will find the right TV show or the right movie, like The Chosen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fact that that show is so widely loved, it has to mean something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think that executives, and I do think there are people who are like, wait, there's this whole other demographic that wants these beautiful stories. Um, so I think maybe they're listening more now. But I do also believe that life is hard. And so people want something that makes them feel better and feel good. I think that's why This Is Us was so well loved. But the dark stuff, the reality TV where you can sort of say, okay, well, at least my life isn't like that. At least I'm not as crazy as they are. I think people gravitate toward that too. And there's the time and place and space for everything. Um, but you pick what you want and you sort of leave the rest. And that's with any industry,
Mm-hmm.
makeup, hair, like books, um, and you just find what you love. But yeah, I luckily I haven't been sort of um, put into a box or a category like, oh, well, she only does this, she only does that, because I can't. I don't want to only do one thing, but I know that if opportunity comes to me, um, I believe it's from God in a way that like either I'm learning or teaching or whatever. But it's a very weird thing. It's like I almost don't even know how to answer what you asked me. So that's why I'm like going every single other place and you're like, what are you saying, Chrissy? But like I'm like unpacking it as I'm answering, because it's
Yeah.
complicated.
Mm-hmm.
It's very complicated. So I don't know if you got anything from that, you gleaned anything from what the heck I just said, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And
You
I
know.
think there is a shift. I
Yeah.
mean, you were in Breakthrough, was that 2018, 2019?
Yes, 20, almost 19, yeah.
And even since then, faith-based filmmaking has come such a long way. The fact that Amazon picked up The Chosen and House of David is saying
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, for sure. I had a meeting with some executives and they're like, you know what? There's this story to be told and this story to be told. And I'm like, yeah, like I do think things are shifting and it does take a change, but really the audience sort of makes that difference. And so I think that's what's happening. And yeah, it's pretty fascinating because I haven't really seen that. I mean, I haven't been in the business forever, but this is sort of a new turn of events. Yeah.
I think it's a cool time to be in Hollywood, and you always do something so positive that just betters society, whether it's, music or acting or writing. So really appreciate your voice.
I try. I try. Thank you. I try.